OG. All right, Daily Grind episode 3. You see there, it's a start. 4 wins in Ruby 2. Not too much further along. And then I made a few changes and got a pretty instant bump. You'll see that as we go through the video. Those changes, if you watch my previous video, you already know what they are, but we'll go in order here. We got into a bit of a bumpy patch after Showdown is when I noticed it. And it was a lot of the same thing I spoke about again in the previous video. The lag / handicap. Not quite sure what it is. If there's any updates on it, I haven't heard. I hope UFL comes out with an explanation, but I notice it's less often in divisions, but you will get it in clusters, I'll say, where it's that it just feels like your team's not your team. You're stuck in the mud. You can't move. The button delay is ridiculous. This right here was in my previous video as an example. That goal was just, I couldn't move my defenders. You might as well move them out of the way. There, players not even jumping for headers. I mean, it was ridiculous. I'm assuming there why he didn't jump for that header. What would have been an easy finish 99% of the time for Ronaldo is because it didn't register my button pressing. Same thing over and over and over. It's just, every once in a while, since you can't see the overlay on here, it's hard to tell. I get it. Like I said, you just have to take my word for it. But we got to do something about this lag because it's happening far too often, and it makes these games just, you see the cluster. It turns kind of into EAFC, and it just takes away the skill gap. It takes away any skill, really, in the game. It takes away all the fun. So, see here, facing Mbappe and Holland, Angels and Demons team. A little bit of a rough patch, like I said. This was one of those games. He did pretty well going down the middle there. You see a nice little quick touch to Mbappe. Beautiful goal there. That was an excellent little quick flip from Holland, and that would do it for that game. Here we have a Platinum 1 team called Galacticos. Decent record, decent team. That Nunez, even though on the wing he's not as dangerous, obviously his idea is cut in curling shots. Nunez is incredible at curling shots, so I knew that coming in. Jonathan David's also excellent at curling shots. He's a pretty darn good striker for anybody who wants to get more of a value striker, but I had a good start against him. Wide open. Ronaldo after the through ball. Got some pretty good pace breakaway there. Usually with Ronaldo, who's not the fastest, doesn't get that. There's a curling shot I was talking about that made it 1-1. We retake the lead here with Ronaldo's. Sorry, that was Camavinga. Camavinga steals the shine from Ronaldo on that corner kick header, and it was actually the game winner. So bravo, Camavinga. Speaking of Camavinga, we face him here. 74 and 29, Platinum 3. Obviously, pretty good player. Not the best start. I'm trying to remember this. Oh my goodness. It's almost like whenever the green tracksuits are in, this was one of those lag fest games. If you watch that back, you can kind of see, honestly. I mean, maybe you still want to go with I'm making excuses. Totally fine. But if you watch back, you can kind of see that's not typical defense. I mean, the delay was ridiculous. And I keep noticing this, though. I don't know. Maybe it's the green tracksuits, but a lot of the teams who I put in those green tracksuits, it's a lag fest. Look at that goal from Mbappe, by the way. Instant increase in the value, in the skill level of my team, by the way, which is what I wanted. I was noticing some stagnant play from my attackers. You get Mbappe in there, he does things like that. You got to be happy. But watch this. It was a lag fest game again. Watch how this ball is moving. I can't even get my players. My players won't trigger their runs the right way. It's constant delay. Look at that. I mean, it was just such a delay. Now, the next one's even worse. This one is obvious. He's dribbling around. There's a delay. My defender seals it. Now, watch this. I went to my winger there. I wanted that out to Mbappe. Instead, it kicks it right at the defender down the middle. It's like the delay is ridiculous. What happens? It causes the ball to bounce off their player. Of course, they recover it, play it in. That was that player's only shot of the game. And instead of getting a win in a lag fest game, it's a draw. So that's when I had enough right there. I said, hey, especially with this lag. I need to have the strongest players up top. For anybody out there, make sure you invest all your CP. If you're putting real money in, make sure you invest it all in your attackers, or at least solidify your attackers first. You see, I switched up Elise for Messi on that right side so he could cut in curling shots to the left. His dribbling, by the way, incredible. Mbappe could play striker, but I have him on the left side with Ronaldo in the center because Mbappe, even without the ultra effect, his curling shots are incredible. Instant bump you see from 4 to 6. Obviously, you're going to go back and forth as you get higher and higher, but from 4 to 6, after only a few games here and there, was pretty good. And I'm not even sure if that was the most updated set of games, but it's not like even if you put in the money, you're just going to start winning everything. I want to make sure I keep it 100% honest with you guys. Don't think you're going to go get Messi, Ronaldo, Mbappe, or all of them, or whoever. Don't think you're going to go get them and just instantly you're going to start winning games 5-0, right? You still got to defend. You still got to play through that lag or handicap, whatever it is. And those guys are going to struggle just like any other player. It's just a little bit easier, as you see here, to do some dribbling with these more higher quality players. It's just a little bit easier to dribble with Messi and then get a curling shot off as opposed to an Elise, or dribble with Mbappe and pull a skill move off, even if you're dealing with kind of heavier play or delay than it is with a Roccini or whatnot. And then when there's not delay, then you really get to see the difference in their quality as opposed to these other players. That's when they really shine. You see here, I still had Elise out there, and this was a lag fest game. It just was unfortunate. It's the only part of the game, like if you watch my previous video, I said showdown. It was game after game. At least in divisions, it's a little more few and far between, which I can only assume that's where I think it's the handicap maybe, and that the showdown players, it's just all of them were at the level where they had a handicap. That's the only reason I think that it could be like this, where one game's great, players feel great, the next game there's a ton of lag as you see a beautiful Mbappe goal. I'm not quite sure, but I want to make sure you will feel the difference in your team. Your team will play better. You'll get those highlight reel type of goals and everything else, but you won't just instantly boom go from platinum to ruby or ruby to diamond or whatever. Or if you're a silver player, silver to gold to play. No, you're still going to have to battle it out. There's still going to be work to be done, but things like that, it's just better dribbling. You see that beautiful goal from Mbappe, and then you also still have things like this, where you win a ball, you go to clear, and it goes right off their defender, conveniently to them, and they have a finish, right? So it's just things you got to deal with, but you also have the ability to come down and do that, whereas most strikers aren't going to finish that header. You might have Ronaldo and Haaland. Which, by the way, if you want to know, I thought about switching Ronaldo up for Haaland. The reason I didn't, Ronaldo has a special effect, ultra effect, on his heading, so he has a boost there. Not only that, but Haaland's a little more stiff on the ball. So instances where I need to be a little more agile in the middle while still having that ability to head, if not a better ability to head the ball in Haaland. That's why I kept Ronaldo. The one thing you do have to sacrifice is speed, which sometimes it matters, like in this game where I switched Ronaldo to the wing because I was seeing those kind of opportunities and I wanted that breakaway speed, and it paid off. You see that lob through ball, and Mbappe is able to outrun the center back and bury at one time. As you see Joelinton score there, he was a player that I picked up after the sacrifice I made in the midfield and the back, right? First was Marquinhos, and I got Van de Ven. So a downgrade there. Then from Valverde, who is the best CM/Cam, and him and Camavinga both are amazing. With him, I had to get rid of him to get Messi because of the RP availability. But the reason I did that is because, like I said, you have to solidify your strikers first. As you see, my opponent had a Messi here. This was one of those just cringy games. A very, very ratty play style from the opponent. We went back and forth, kind of like a Messi fest. I did fall short in this game. But back to what I was saying. In your midfield, more defensively midfield, right? Because technically your wingers, wing mids are midfielders. But let's say them and your strikers, you must solidify. You must get good players up there first, as you see that beautiful Messi curling shot. But your more defensive midfielders and your backs, even as well as your goalie, you can make a sacrifice there. Okay, solidify your attacking players first. Get the best you can get in the attack. Because, quite honestly, if I could choose Valverde or Joelinton, I go Valverde. However, Joelinton is just fine. He does a fantastic job. So it definitely isn't something where you want to, if you had the choice and you had the availability to get these strikers and Valverde, of course, Valverde over Joelinton. But I'm telling you, Joelinton does a fantastic job. He even makes more of an impact sometimes in the attack, at least. But Valverde's still a brilliant player. Eventually, I'd like to have him back if it comes to that. But you never know because Joelinton, as well as Van de Ven, he's had just as good, if not a better impact as well than Marquinhos, who I had back there before. But they're going to keep going up in ratings, right? Whereas Valverde was a 90 rated and Marquinhos was 90 rated. So who knows where Van de Ven and Joelinton will be, considering they're already doing a great job making an immediate impact on the team. So hopefully that helps you guys out. My recommendation, see how your opponents do, because this isn't a game like EAFC, right, where you can just go play with those players. I wonder if in those local games, if some of those created teams have like Hollands and Ronaldos and that. I didn't even think about that before. I literally went off of kind of how my opponents were with these players to make my decisions. And that's how I kind of felt out how Ronaldo was based on how it was to defend him, how Haaland was based on how it was to defend him. Same with the Mbappes and Messis and really any players I went with. I just went with kind of my scouting report with my opponents. So with that being said, we're sitting higher up in Ruby 2. On our way, just a few games. Let's hope that by Daily Grind episode 4, I'm in Ruby 1. But we'll see. Thank you for following my journey, and talk to you guys later. Have a good one. OG. Daily Grind episode 4. And man, it was a session tonight. Wasn't always highs. There was definitely some lows in there. But we finally did it. As you know, I told you Ruby 2 was 8 games you had to, or 8 bars if you will, you had to go through in order to advance to Ruby 1. So it was a trek and a half, but we did it. We persevered. Like I said, there were some bumps in the road as you look through the journey, the latest games to the earliest, and now we're going back up. There was only really one player in particular that we played a lot, and it just so happens to be the most ratty / toxic player that I have a back and forth with, but it's definitely a rivalry. Might even exceed that because it gets kind of goofy at times to the point of the player I'm playing against, this Dagger, you know what, sports that you see on there all the time. He almost is so ratty that it's almost unbearable, and I'll explain what I found out too as we look through this. So we kept playing each other, and I noticed 2 different ways that he plays. And at first, I wasn't even thinking about it. I thought maybe he was battling back and forth between like tactics, right? Well, then I realized it was so laggy, and I connected that to the same way he plays when it's laggy. And then I realized something that made me, I'm going to start looking for it on the broader scale of things, that whoever is the home team, right, I guess is the quote unquote host. I have no idea what that means, except for the fact that whenever this player in particular was the home team, the lag was terrible. I mean, it was terrible. The games were a mess, and honestly, those are the few games he beats me. I beat him a vast majority of the time, but the few games he beats me, I'm sure I've gotten him when he was a home team still in the lag. You'll see the highlights for yourself. But I know for a fact the few times he got me, it was just a lag fest, goofy goals, the whole 9, bouncing off the goalie instead of the goalie catching it, ball going through players, just nonsense. And what it made me realize, like I said, I'm going to start watching for it, is I think maybe this lag that I've been speaking of and that a lot of people have been speaking of the delay, the lag, whatever you want to call it, might have to do with the connection of whoever the home team is or the quote unquote host. I had a player mention that to me too about being the host, and I thought, man, I just connected that all. But I know for a fact that I'm onto something because whenever he was the home team, he played a completely different formation, completely different style. And once I adapted, I took care of him. I don't know if you looked at the history of that, but he beat me a few times after I had just totally dominated him, at the start of the day, just game after game, we kept matching. Then we capped off the night much of the same way, including the game that we advanced to Ruby 1, and it was quite a game. You'll see it later on here, but might as well start it off here against Young Dagger. You know what? You see his abbreviation there. Kind of explains everything you need to know about him as a player, using the initials he used there when his name has nothing to do with that. Beautiful goal there from Mbappe. Finished that game off with a victory, and right back to Dagger Sports YT. You see the PSN there. If you played this kid, you know what I'm talking about. But it's extremely satisfying when you score and you beat him. Skill-wise, I'm far superior, but he has these ratty ways, and like I said, there's just these laggy games. And he was the only opponent that I noticed that it would go back and forth between being laggy and not, and it was just every single time he was the home team, it had these goofy goals, the goofy plays. Players weren't reacting right. There's a lot of delay, and man, I finally connected it. So I think I'm onto something there. I want you guys to watch for that yourself. If you're the home team or your opponent who's home team, now check out this free kick, by the way, but check for that. Look at this beauty. Ronaldo and Messi over a free kick. What an iconic photo, by the way. I know it's a video game, but still, wouldn't that be something? Rumors that he might go to Miami, so you never know. We still might see it, but check that out. See if, when you play, if there's a difference between who the host is and the lag you get in game. But man, I keep scoring those. I wish they would patch them. That particular goal, that near post run, it looked more realistic. It was a great run, great play. But nonetheless, it's just too automatic to finish those near posts. I wish they would patch it. However, it's one of those things, just like these corners. I mean, the only way you're going to compete is if you utilize this stuff. Some of the long switches I stayed away from for a while, but I started doing it just because it's so OP and it gets you out of pressure. You see there, bad touch there by the defender. Kind of felt bad there as that was the game winner. Kind of a goofy through ball. Actually, I don't even think it touched the defender there. I think it went right by him. Back to Dagger Sports here. And we went back and forth. This might have been one he won. I'll be able to tell you pretty quickly. Nope. This is one. Look at that goal. I mean, that's a goal that he scores typically, and I love the celebration after. The only reason I watch is because it's this player in particular, but you see this is going into another game. He's the home team here, so I knew what kind of game it was going to be. I knew how he was going to play based on him being the home team, and that's how I started wrapping him up much easier. I had problems earlier with him, but that was actually a beautiful goal to start it off too, by the way. And of course, he would have a through ball that was accurate. 99% of the time, those through balls, they need to dial them in, but that in particular, through balls showed it. Once they dial them in, they can be pretty in this game. It's just, they're too inaccurate. You press triangle, you just tap it, and it goes flying 90 yards. We're way out of the player's way, typically. But of course, that one for him worked perfect. We tie it there. Beautiful individual effort from Ronaldo. And then this is the game-leading goal. I showed you a little bit of the build-up here. With him being the home team, with the lag, like I know you can't see it, with the lag, this was quite a feat. It was to go up to Ruby 1. Of course, I had that fire burning because you don't want to lose to this type of player. Watch this goal here. Beautiful effort by Messi. It's just brilliant. I mean, he's been quiet for me, more quiet than Mbappe and Ronaldo, but man, can he work. It's just having that 3-star weak foot on the right side, and the players just know he's going to the left, just like a 1-foot player. Unfortunately, in this game, it's a little more predictable. than Messi is in real life, because that 3-star weak foot really is a 3-star weak foot in UFO, so you really got to work the ball to his left. Fortunately, you see there, his dribbling's excellent. And he's still defendable, though. That's the last thing I was going to say, too, as I advance to Ruby 1. I'm going to start doing player highlights, just so if there's a player that's expensive and you want to know some things about him, I could try to fill you in. That way, maybe I can stop you from wasting your CP or your money, whichever you're spending, or both. Or maybe there's a player that you're not thinking about that I could shed some light on that's a star player. So either way, I'm going to start doing that. But appreciate you following my journey, and we will continue on next time in Ruby 1. Have a good one.